Go.
Okay, I'll start out by thanking Bruce for the invitation and thanking all of you for coming to this session and this talk. I'm going to tell you a little bit about 501c3 status, give you an illustration of how we obtained this status in CCARs, and hopefully inspire you to get 501c3 status in your own club. If you already have it, then hopefully I will arm you with information to talk to other individuals who may not have 501c3 status in their club and help them move forward. And I'll talk about some resources that are available as well. First of all, my disclaimers. I am not an attorney. I am not a tax accountant. I did consult with the treasurer of the Meriden Amateur Radio Club, which is a 501c3 organization. I read some books and some online information, and I spearheaded getting 501c3 status for CCARs. So that is, those are my qualifications to share this all with you. And there are some attorney resources that are available at no cost that if you need to use an attorney for this purpose, we'll talk about that at the end. This is a great book. I have a reference to it at the end. If you want these slides, you can get a PDF copy of them. But I strongly encourage any group looking to obtain 501c3 status to purchase this book on Amazon. It's 30 or 40 bucks, and it's a very valuable treasure trove of information. So why even do this in the first place? I think there are a number of compelling benefits to get 501c3 status. The first is increased donations. Your members who and other individuals who itemize deductions on their taxes can take a tax deduction for any donation they make and also for membership dues, provided they do not receive a tangible benefit in exchange for those membership dues, and that results in some useful tax savings. So you will see your donations increase as a result of doing this. You also will be exempt from federal and state taxes, income taxes certainly, and also state sales tax by virtue of showing your tax-exempt letter when you make purchases. You'll become eligible for grants. There are some granting institutions that will only provide money to 501c3 organizations. There are other groups that will provide money regardless of whether or not you have a 501c3, but your application is more credible if you have 501c3 status. And I'll give you an example of that in a few slides. And finally, you'll be eligible to receive matching gifts for corporations that are generous enough to give their employees a matching gift benefit. And I'm retired from Pfizer, where I worked for 29 years, but Pfizer is one company that does matching gifts. And I was able to secure a few $1,000s from Pfizer, not only for matching gifts, but also they compensated me for my time serving as president of CCARs. They paid $20 an hour into CCARs for the work that I did for that organization. So for any member who has works for a company that gives matching gifts, there is the opportunity to take advantage of that. So what have been the specific benefits for CCARs? We run fundraisers twice a year. We are completely exempt from paying income taxes on the money that comes in from those fundraisers. Otherwise, we would be subject to paying corporate income tax. We are exempt from Connecticut state sales tax on all purchases. We received an ARRL club grant for over $12,000 for an outreach and mentoring program that included upgrading all of our repeater equipment. While 501c3 status was not necessary to get the ARRL club grant, it was a field that you checked on the application form, and I was informed that having 501c3 status or being in the process of applying for it gives additional credibility to your application for that program. We just completed a capital campaign to rebuild our repeater shack. It was infested with mice, the roof had a hole in it, the climate control wasn't that great. We raised over $7,500 in cash and building material in-kind donations that went toward completely rebuilding that shack. And we also receive increased donations as a result of this. I don't have the exact figures, but I'm going to estimate somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $3,000 a year has been coming in donations, in part because of our 501c3 status. There are two types of tax-exempt status that you want to be aware of. and I will compare and contrast them. The first is 501c7, which applies to social clubs. And certainly amateur radio clubs can apply for 501c7 status. The benefits are not as good as 501c3, but 501c7 organizations, their purpose is to serve their members. They're exclusive organizations. They work for their members. They're exempt from federal income tax. The revenue from these organizations is primarily generated from dues. Any donations to these organizations cannot be deducted from federal income tax. Examples of 501c7 organizations would be country clubs, rod and gun clubs, hobby clubs. Certainly amateur radio clubs would fall into this category if you wanted them to. 501c3 is a designation for charitable organizations. So unlike social clubs, which primarily exist to serve their members, 501c3 organizations primarily exist to serve the public at large. They're exempt from federal income tax. They're exempt from state sales tax. Donations are tax deductible. The revenue for these organizations is primarily generated through donations. Examples would be charitable, educational, religious, or scientific organizations. I'll talk more about those in a moment. So I've heard a number of reasons when I've talked to people in different clubs and extolled the virtues of 501c3s, why not to do this. It's a lot of work. It's going to be expensive. We don't have lawyers or accountants who can help. We just want to have fun and not deal with business, and we don't want to deal with the IRS. Some of these are valid concerns, but I think hopefully I'll convince you that we can mitigate them, and some of them are, I think, outright myths. The reality is the forms for applying for 501c3 are easy to fill out as long as you're bringing in less than $50,000 a year. And I think most amateur radio clubs are bringing in less than $50,000 a year. The toughest part of this will be changing your constitution and your bylaws to ensure compatibility with IRS regulations. At the end of this presentation, I have the specific materials in the CCAR's constitution and bylaws that will allow you to be in compliance with these IRS regulations. And you can find the CCAR's constitution and bylaws in their entirety on our website, ccars.org, Sierra Echo Charlie Alpha Romeo Sierra.org. There's a button on top. Click here for our constitution and bylaws. You can go ahead and copy any of that you want, except for our name, as you're thinking about your own constitution and bylaws. There is cost associated with it. Our experience has been that the increased donations have offset the cost handsomely. We are collaborating with the Meriden Amateur Radio Club on their Marconi 2 initiative, which includes funding for attorneys and accountants to help clubs get 501c3 status. So you can get the legal advice that you need for free up to the amount that was included in that grant for attorney time. We did not need an attorney. We did not need an accountant. I think you can do this without those resources if you so choose, but the resources are there if you need them. And think of how much more fun you can have and how much more you can do with the additional resources that you get from having this status. So what is required to get tax-exempt status? Well, first, your club must be organized as a corporation, trust, or association. You've probably already done this with your state for liability limitation purposes so that people aren't suing your directors if something goes wrong. In Connecticut, the fee to do this is $50. And you're basically just filing your constitution and your bylaws with your state. You need an employer identification number from the IRS. This is free, and there's an online application for it. It's pretty painless to get your EIN. You probably already have this as well. Your articles of incorporation need to reflect your purpose and include specific language that's sought by the IRS, and I'm going to share with you what those magic words are. And then you're going to need to file the application and pay the fee. For 501c3, it's $275, one-time fee. For 501c7, it's $600. And that's all I'm going to say about 501c7 because I don't have experience with it beyond looking up these materials. So the first thing you need to do is think about your purpose. What is the purpose of your organization? And it needs to align with 501c3 requirements. There are only 5 valid purposes for 501c3, and we'll cover them all sequentially here. Charitable purposes. You may think, well, we help out in emergencies, and we provide a critical resource to the public should disaster happen. And that can be okay for 501c3, but I would maintain that you're probably not doing enough of that to make that the purpose that you want to align around for 501c3. Religious purposes. You can say I got religion about ham radio, but the IRS is not going to believe that. We do scientific experimentation. You do not do enough scientific experimentation and publish on it and do enough groundbreaking research to qualify for the scientific arm of this. Literary purposes. This is generally reserved for libraries and nonprofit public publishing houses. But what does align very well with what virtually every amateur radio club does is educational purposes, instruction for self-development and the benefit of the community. Think about it. You're running amateur radio licensing courses. You're giving exam sessions. You are teaching people how to do fox hunting, teaching people how to work nets, teaching people about emergency preparedness, helping them building their skills on HF. The list goes on and on and on. Some of you are even getting into the schools and helping kids develop new skills and get their amateur radio licenses. So education, I think, aligns perfectly with what basically every amateur radio club is doing already. The thing you need to modify in your constitution and bylaws is to make sure it's clear that you're not going to do anything that's prohibited by the IRS if you have 501c3 status. And you want to make your purpose very, very clear in those documents. Again, aligned around education if you're going to model it off what CCARs did. So what are these prohibited activities from the IRS? Well, any unrelated business activities that consume significant time and resources and take away from that purpose that you're aiming toward would be a prohibited activity. Any kind of private inurement, paying a dividend to your members, any private interest benefits would be prohibited. Again, the money that comes in is supposed to be used for the purpose that benefits the general public and not for your members. Upon dissolution, all funds must be irrevocably dedicated to another tax-exempt group or the government for a public purpose. So you need a clause in your constitution and bylaws indicating what's going to happen should your club dissolve. You don't have to specify the organization. You don't have to say our assets all go to the ARRL. You say our assets will go to a 501c3 organization that is aligned with our purpose. And again, you can model it off of what's in the CCAR's constitution and bylaws. You cannot provide excess benefits. You can take a profit. You can take in more money than you use every year. You can build a bank account. That is fine. You can pay your officers and your directors. Absolutely. You just can't pay them any more than market rates for their services. ARRL is a 501c3 organization. They have executives and staff who are paid. That is possible. We don't do that. Your life will be a lot easier if you don't pay anybody. But it is possible to do that. I think it's important to be mindful of conflicts of interest. You have somebody in your club who is an electrician, and you're going to pay them to do all kinds of electrical work on your repeater shack. Better watch it. I would want to have multiple bids and demonstrate that that was a competitive bid and that you're not floating extra cash to this member on the sly to benefit them unusually. You cannot participate in political campaigns for or against any candidate in office. And the IRS is going to look at your organizing documents to make sure that you have language in there that specifically prohibits these activities. And again, all of it's covered in the supplemental material, which I can flash through real quick. There are 2 types of 501c3 organizations: public charities and private foundations. What's an example of a private foundation? The Gates Foundation, the Michael J. Fox Foundation. You do not want to be a private foundation, and you won't be a private foundation, because these organizations get most, if not all, of their money from one individual. Okay? A public charity is an organization that derives its support from the public at large in the form of contributions, grants, etc. There is a test that you must pass in order to qualify as a public charity. It's a pretty easy one. Are you getting at least a third of your total support from contributions from the public or government units? Or are you getting at least a tenth of your support from these sources and actively soliciting public support? What is actively soliciting public support? Go to the CCAR's website, go to the bottom, you'll see a page that says, donate to CCAR's. We're a 501c3 organization. Click here. Boom, we just passed the test. Okay? Just put on your website that you're accepting donations and put a mechanism to do that. It can be as simple as mail a check here or a button to a PayPal page. So how do we derive support? Dues. Membership dues in CCAR's are fully tax deductible to the extent allowed by federal law, because our members don't receive anything valuable in return. They get voting rights, and that's it. You can give them a newsletter. You can't give them a hat. Otherwise, they're going to have to write off the value of the hat from their deduction. Okay, so you just, nothing tangible, and that's okay. We get donations of equipment and money. We acknowledge those donations on our website. You can see a list of our donors. Some donors choose to remain anonymous. That's fine. We give them receipts for equipment that they donate. They're allowed to do the valuation, but we describe the equipment and the condition that it was received in. We do have some gross receipts from admissions to our auction or our flea market fundraiser. We take a commission for selling merchandise at those events. We really don't derive any benefit from performing services or providing facilities. What does not count as public support? You sell a building and you take in money from the sale of the building or stock or capital assets that you might own. That does not count as public support. Selling tickets to a performance would not be public support. And any unrelated activities and investment income, if you invest some of your treasury in a mutual fund and you get capital gains and dividends off of that, that's not public support. So you can do some of these things. It's legal, but it's not going to help toward passing that test that I talked about earlier.
Pay taxes.
You don't have to pay taxes. No, you're a tax-exempt organization.
Even on investment income?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Perfectly okay. How do you get this status? So I would maintain for the vast majority of amateur radio clubs, you can file 1023EZ. It's got EZ in the name. It takes 10 minutes. You need an account with ID.me. If you already file your taxes electronically, then you have this. If you don't, you're going to have to go on. Yes, you will have to give your taxpayer identification number, which for many of you is your Social Security number. But you'll get an account, and then you will associate your account with the employer identification number of your organization. And then you become the authorized individual to file for 501c3 status. What do you need? Name of your organization, address, phone number, contact info. The names, titles, and contact information for all of your officers and directors. I think there's a limit of maybe 8, but you'll put their names and their information in. If that changes, you don't have to file an update. They just want who it was when your organization formed, well, which would be as of the date that you are doing the application. What's your organization type? Are you a corporation? Are you an unincorporated association? Or are you a trust? You're probably all going to be corporations. The date and the state of your incorporation, in our case, Connecticut. And then you're going to check some boxes. Did you limit your activities to your stated purpose? Yes, check. Did you limit your purpose to a classified area like adult education? Yes, check. Do you have a provision for where assets go in the event of dissolution? Yes, check. You will then briefly describe your purpose in 250 characters or less. And yes, there is a limit in the box. So you'll go to your Constitution, you'll find your purpose, and you'll summarize that in 250 characters or less. You'll enter the 3-letter NTEE code for your purpose. I'll save you an hour of time, which is what it took me to dive through the 1,000+ codes that there are. You'll use B60 for adult or continuing education. And yes, you can educate kids, but most of your members are going to be adults. So adult education is, I think, the best way to go. There are check boxes regarding not engaging in prohibited activities. For each one, you'll check no, you're not going to do that. You'll have check boxes for compensation of your officers. You'll check no, our officers and directors are not compensated unless they are, in which case you've got some additional work to do and you may not be able to file this form. And then you'll check that you're a public charity and you'll sign it and you're done. It's literally 10 minutes. Every year, hello, can you advance for me? We're frozen.
This is not good.
Every year, you will file an update with the IRS. It is Form 990EZ. You will use the postcard form.
Right now.
Nope.
Some have quick.
Yeah, it's working. It's working there, but it's not working here.
You're on the wrong screen. Yeah, let me.
While he's doing that, you'll file 990EZ, the postcard form. Basically, it will ask.
Try it now.
Okay. You'll need to do this at the end of your fiscal year and within 5.5 months of that date. You can do it no earlier than the end of your fiscal year. You must do it within 5.5 months or you risk losing your 501c3 status. And I think that happens if you fail to do this 3 years in a row. Okay? But you'll have to file updates. It's just best. It takes 5 minutes. Just do it. Okay? What tax year are you filing for? 2024 to 2025. What is the name, address, employer identification number, and web address of your organization? What is the name and address of your principal officer, which is probably going to be your president? Has your organization dissolved? You'll check no. Are your gross receipts $50K or less? You'll check yes, and then you hit the submit button, and you're done. It's really that easy. I think if you want to do this, you should buy this book because it talks a lot about how you set up your organizing documents to pass these IRS tests. It's written by Anthony Mancuso, and it's available on Amazon for 30 or 40 bucks. And then if you want assistance from an attorney or an accountant, the Marconi 2 program will provide that. I don't think anybody's taken advantage of it to date. And we do have some money in the grant for attorney time. So once it's gone, it's gone. But contact w1nrg.com/contacts or postmaster@w1nrg.com. Just go to the Meriden Amateur Radio Club website and reach out to them. You can also reach out to me if you need help. But you can get an attorney to help you if you want to. I'm going to make a plug for our fall auction because I'm here and I can do that. It's a live auction. Come buy or sell amateur radio related gear, transceivers, antennas, parts, test equipment, boat anchors, collector's gear. We sell it all. We have refreshments. We have raffle prizes. Meet new friends or make new friends, meet old friends. Saturday, October 18th, doors open at 8. Our Lady of Lourdes Parish Hall in Gales Ferry, Connecticut. More information on our website. There is an admission fee of $5. We take a 10% commission, $1 minimum on anything that we sell. And I'm just going to really briefly walk you through a couple things. How much time do I have? Am I out?
No, you're not out. You've got about 9 minutes.
9 minutes. All right.
If
so
you went over a minute or two, Mark,
yeah.
It's the last presentation.
So I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we thought about as we were putting together our 501c3 organizing documents. It is a good practice not to have the word club in your organization's name. It's a good practice to have the location of your organization in the organization name. Limit it geographically or regionally. Now, we came up with this name before seeing any of these requirements, but it happens to fit perfectly. Southeastern Connecticut Amateur Radio Society. Great to use society instead of club. There are organizations with club in the name that are 501c3. I don't know that we would have had any grief if we were the Southeastern Connecticut Amateur Radio Club.
Association.
Association is fine too. So club just is starting to run into that 501c7. you're better off with society or association or something that's a little more neutral. But the Meriden Amateur Radio Club is 501c3, so it can be done. You'll need a board of directors. You'll want them to be competent people with no conflicts of interest. You'll need to talk about how frequently they're going to meet, what the voting rules are, what defines a quorum, whether you have executive committees, and what their privileges are and are not. And you may have a formal membership nonprofit structure, which means business requires a majority vote of a quorum of members. You probably already have all of this stuff. You need to think about your purpose, and this is what we used. CCARS Inc. is a nonprofit, non-stock corporation organized exclusively for charitable, educational, and scientific purposes, including making of distributions to organizations that qualify as exempt under 501c3 or the corresponding section of any future federal tax code. And we also have that in our bylaws. You can take that exact word, take CCARS out, put your organization in. I think I even copied this out of that NOLO book, okay? Just make it that. Avoid using terms that are associated with tax exemption under other non-501c3 sections like social, fraternal, recreational, political. Those are some words to avoid. By the way, if you have to change the name of your organization, that's not such a bad thing, because then your organization is going to start all over again. Somebody was saying that they were going through a lot of history with an attorney and old books and all of that. That stuff goes away once you form a new organization. So change the word club to society and a whole lot of magic might happen for you. All right. We talk a little bit about how we're aligning with the amateur radio service, why we exist, to coordinate and conduct amateur radio activities and programs to advance the general interest and welfare of amateur radio in the community, promote knowledge, camaraderie, individual operating proficiency. All that stuff sounds great and lines up with education, which is what you want. We even talk, we formed by the merger of two legacy organizations. We list them here and indicate that we seek to honor the legacy of those two organizations that preceded CCARS. And we talk about our directors, how often they meet, when special meetings can occur, and what they're responsible for. And and here you go. This is the prohibited language, the language around prohibitions that they want to see in your documents. Just copy them word for word, pull CCARS out. No part of the net earnings shall inure to the benefit of or be distributable to members, trustees, officers, etc. No substantial part of the activities shall be in the carrying out of propaganda, influencing legislation, political campaigns. CCARS will not carry on any other activities not permitted by 501c3. Real easy. If we're disbanded, this is what it requires, a 3/4 vote, and all organization finances, property, equipment, blah, 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 will be voted upon to be donated to a non-political, non-personal, charitable organization. That's all you need. We don't even know who it's going to be yet, but it's going to be somebody that fits in that category. And that's also in our bylaws. And that's it. So, really not that difficult, I would say. And there's a lot of resources out there to help you. And you can contact me or MARC, and we can hook you up with professional resources if you need them. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question. All right. So first, there was a question earlier about how do you get like a clubhouse for a radio club? And let's say you become a 501c3 and a benefactor comes along and says, I have a building that I'd like to donate. It's more than $50,000.
You may be filling out a different form at that point.
Okay. Does that change your status as a 501c3?
Nope.
You're still a 501c3?
You'll still be a 501c3, but if you're going to own that building, that may create an issue. Now, again, this might be where you involve the attorney that's available, but I wonder if there's an opportunity for them to set up a trust that owns the building, and then you get it at a nominal rent of $1 a year, and then the benefit that you're getting is the below market value rent which may be less than $50,000 for the year. I don't know. That's beyond my qualifications. Bob looks like he's got a comment.
Yeah, when it comes to gifts, don't look a gift horse. Actually, look a gift horse in the mouth, because if somebody gives you a building, okay, there's upkeep.
You got to maintain it. Yeah,
there's all that involved in that. Does your club have enough income to maintain that building and keep it going? That's the thing. You got this great big huge building, but it's going to cost you $30,000 a year just to maintain it. No thanks. Because unless your club is making a ton of money, you're gonna sink yourself.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Probably a lot more diligence involved in that than what we're talking about here. But there may be ways to set it up where you're not the actual owner, but you're benefiting from the use of the building.
Okay, so
and then you have to establish the other maintenance.
Another
aspect.
Question. You
and then we got to go in the back. Yep.
No, yeah. Another question. You said something about you can't give a hat away.
Right.
But you could sell that hat as a fundraiser and collect money for that.
You can give the hat away.
Yeah.
Let's say I pay $40 for membership in the club, and you give me a hat with a C-Cars logo that is valued at $20. Now I can only write off $20 on my taxes.
The value.
Oh.
Because I gave $40 as a dues donation, and I got a present worth $20.
So dues are tax deductible when
absolutely,
you pay dues to a church?
absolutely.
Oh,
by the way, if you're members in like Mystic Seaport or your local aquarium or museum, all that stuff is tax deductible if you itemize. Now you have to be writing off quite a bit in order to itemize. But if you itemize, dues in 501c3 organizations are absolutely deductible, even if they are giving you free admission to the museum for the year, because that's not considered a tangible benefit. But if they're giving you souvenirs and other things, then they'll tell you what you can write off.
To give you a tote bag.
And they'll tell you what you can write off in that case.
You talked about a situation where about paying an electrician.
Yeah.
So explain where you can run afoul there, and
sure.
then have a follow-up.
Let's say I have an electrician in my club who will rewire my building for $1,500, but I know that job should only cost $500, and I give him the business. That's starting to smell a little bit rank. What I should do is I should call a couple of electricians, 3 maybe, get bids. And then if his winds up being a competitive bid, then I can give him the business.
Follow up to that.
Okay, but we got other questions. So,
all right.
There was at least one in the back. Yep.
I've been involved with a couple of 501c3 operations, and the first one was about 25 years ago. It was our musical society, and we were supposedly a 501c3 because the person who donated the corporation and the 501c3 paperwork didn't file the 501c3 paperwork. Now we're 20 years behind or 15 years behind on accepting donations and thinking they were tax free. So we had to fill out the form. Now the form at that time was like 40 pages, and it was onerous. But 2 of us filled it out, sent it in, and they said, you'll wait 6 months. 30 days later, we got our 501c3 retroactive. That was the good news. Recently, our local EAA chapter, Experimental Aircraft Association, incorporated, and 2 guys did it overnight.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's easy.
It is not a lot of work.
The way it was, that was horrible.
Yeah.
It was 40 pages.
Well, yeah, that was a special situation. Yeah. Bob?
Yeah, I just want to say, if you're going to bring this up to your club to do, I did this with Mark, and there's a lot involved in it. Selling it to the club, you have to be prepared, because you're telling a bunch of hams, hey, we're going to become an educational organization. You need to be ready to explain how that's going to work. And Mark did a great job in these slides, how you're turning hey, we're teaching hams, we're doing all these educational things. Be ready for that little bit of pushback, because you will it's New England. We're all going to go, I don't want to do this. But it is so worth it when you finish. But just have the answers when the guys go, oh, why are we doing this, or how are we doing this?
Yeah, that's a great Great
It'll be
point.
very helpful.
What they want to hear is they can still do the fun stuff that they want to do. And the answer is yes, you can still do all of that. We're just branding it differently so that we can get this designation with the IRS. There's at least one or two back there.
If we had not been a 501c3, we could not have accepted that donation to fix the towers.
Yeah.
Because they will only donate to a 501c3.
So there's two in the back, then we'll come to you.
Yes, just a quick thing. So with the Whitman Amateur Radio Club, we have our 501c3. We had a little mix-up on the state filing and stuff, but we got that sorted out. We owed a couple of years for that, and that's done. The federal's fine. And I'm sure you have to go through similar paperwork with the state of Connecticut when you did your 501c3.
Actually, all we had to do with the state was file our articles of incorporation.
Okay.
But because, that's all we had to do.
Yeah, it was very easy for us, too.
And then we have to maintain that every year.
Okay. And then the last part is we do about 5 to 6 training seminars for, full classes, tech, general and extra a year too. So that's a big part of our education.
Yeah.
And lastly, I think the standard deduction for old buzzards and their wives is about $30,000. So you need to have at least $30,000 worth of deductions at the moment.
Yeah, which you might have mortgage interest, you might have state
Right, a lot of
income
the younger
tax.
people. The younger people were trying to get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So not everybody's going to be able to take advantage of the tax write-off, but
Yeah,
my point is some will,
Right.
and there are other benefits beyond that too
Gotcha.
that are
Thank you.
important.
If a family's liquidating an estate, they may see the benefit in that because they're liquidating a real estate and everything else.
Yeah.
And also a donation of all the ham equipment.
Yeah, absolutely,
We provide a receipt to the estate for what we get.
absolutely. You need to do that. Yep.
Is there a requirement for members of the association, not club anymore, but association or society, to be voting members, other than just the board? Can we have a 501c3 association where just the board members are the voting members and everyone else are non-voting members?
Correct. That's the ARRL.
Good example. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you are a membership-driven organization where you basically run on a democracy, then and that's how our club works, then that's one way to set it up. The other way to set it up is you have an executive team and a board of directors,
Right.
and they run the show. And then you just need a mechanism to determine how are those individuals chosen. Usually,
Some selection process.
There'd have to be some selection processes, maybe an election of the board of directors, and then the directors figure out who the officers are going to be. It's a wonky structure, and I wouldn't want to do that for a hobby type organization. But for a big national organization with 250,000 members, you probably need to run that way because you can't have all your business out for votes with 250,000 people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's okay to have no dues. Right now, we've got a structure where we don't have any dues in the club. If
Fine.
we turn this into a 501c3, we'd like to keep it no dues.
And you can do that.
Okay, no problem there.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
So are you required to show that you're doing these classes from time to time? Each year?
I
Like X
don't
amount of-
think there would be an auditor that would come by, but all that I would need to use to do that is just show my advertising of the classes. But I think the IRS has bigger fish to fry than.
And how about
than
the
us.
number that are in your club? Do you recommend a certain amount before you even would think about doing something like that? Or?
No, I think having this designation gives you more credibility in intangible ways that will drive membership growth by virtue of that credibility. If you had 2 people, then I'd say, yeah, okay, that's probably a little ridiculous. But a nucleus of 20 people, I'd get going on it.
I will say that classes, everybody's thinking of classes of radio, license class. Everything that you do in that club, if you're doing a mentoring session with another person, that's an educational function that you're doing. If you do a POTA with them and you're teaching them something about doing it, that is another educational thing. If you're going to do any of these things where you've got
Field day is educational. Yeah.
Those are all education.
Guest speakers every month are educated.
Yeah.
All of those things will cover. They don't have a team of guys that are going to come and sit in our meeting and go, how many of these things actually happened?
Yeah.
Be honest, but everything you do is an educational opportunity.
Every presentation at your club meeting is an education. Yeah.
What they may do is go to your website and make sure that your website is consistent with your purpose. That's a low burn thing that I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS did as part of your application diligence. Yes.
Okay, so following up, we talked about the electrician. If the electrician does the work, he can deduct the fair market value of the work that he does for the 501c3?
No. If you volunteer time, because I do itemize, if you volunteer time, you cannot deduct the fair market value of your time against your income taxes.
Okay.
I have a beef with that, but that is
Materials?
the way. Materials, absolutely.
Okay.
Just not good business to not reach out
Yeah.
and get bids on things like that, because you're gonna tick somebody else in your club off
Yeah.
that might have a kid that's an electrician and go, WTF,
Yeah.
why didn't I?
What?
I'm good.
Okay. You're asking for a friend, right?
I think what they're worried about is money laundering.
Correct.
Right?
That's
So
exactly right.
How do you do things without paying taxes that you should pay? That's the major thing they're worried about.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Yep.
What do we do in our clubs that you should be paying taxes? We don't do all that much stuff.
Yeah.
You have to think about that.
It's the electrician who's doing the work.
Exactly.
And they'll pay income taxes on the money that they make from your job. You'll pay them money from your tax-free, your donations that were tax deductible. You'll pay them money. They won't charge you state sales tax on their services because you're exempt, and they will pay income taxes to the feds and the state on the money that you paid them to do the work. That's how it should work anyway.
Any further questions?
Yeah, we got one up here.
If people are donating equipment to you, you have to give them a form 1099.
No. If they donate equipment to you, what we do is we provide them a receipt. It's a standard letter that reads something to the effect of, "Dear so-and-so, thank you very much for your donation of XYZ, 2C cars. We are a 501c3 organization. Your donation is deductible to the extent allowable by federal income tax law." And that's basically it. And then their responsibility is, and we'll say we received it in good condition on this date. You got a date, condition, and the item. Their responsibility is to value it, and you have no role in that. Okay?
Thank you, Mark.
Very good. Thank you.